guys?
What's up?
Michael and Melanie.
What's up?
Here for another tips and tricks on how to maximize your life and live your dreams and all that cool crap. So,
Pet puppies.
anyway, today we are going to be talking about savings.
Ooh.
And why you should save, how much is too much, is it boring, is it useful, what is savings for? Okay, for a lot of my life, I felt like I needed to save just because that's what responsible people do. They just save their money. And it's almost like if you spend your money, you're irresponsible. But that is not the point of actually saving. Michael, why should you save your money?
Well, I mean, besides the obvious, because at any point things do happen. I mean, life does hit us, and that's the downside to adulting is you could be driving around and your tires could blow out and you might need new tires, and it's important to be able to have a cushion to withstand that hit, because if you're not able to do that, then it can cause, you know, tremendous problems for you, and, you know, get yourself further into debt, which, you know, when you're already dealing with enough stresses in life, the last thing you need is additional financial stress on that. But, you know, kind of get to your point on saving, you know, I hear a lot of people say, you know, oh, you gotta pay your dues now so you can have fun later. But
You have to pay now so you can play later.
right, and I mean, there's definitely some truth to, you can't just, you know, YOLO, because that's the opposite side to it, where you just, you know, do whatever you want now and don't even think about the consequences of what might happen. That's also the wrong answer. The way I view it is, the age that you are right now, you will only ever be that age one time. And looking back on your, you know, on your deathbed, you're not going to look back and say, oh shoot, I should have saved $100 here. So that's, you know, one of the main cruxes of what I want to say is, like, saving is important, but it is not so important that you can't do anything else with your life. And it's really, you know, really important to have that in mind before you even start to think about, like, what your savings goals are. You know, be realistic with why you're saving and what the thought process is. You know, if you're able to, you know, manage, if you don't have any savings right now, and you're able to actually, you know, begin saving and build up, you know, enough savings in your account that you feel comfortable that you can actually withstand some of life's challenges, then that's a good place to start. But anyway, you kind of want to talk a little bit more about, like, what your thought process changed in terms of savings from what you grew up with.
Yeah,
right?
so when I moved out on my own, I moved out when I was 18, and it was just like, I was working, I was in my little studio apartment, and I didn't really have a good relationship with money. And I know that sounds weird, but to me, money was one of these things that it just wasn't gonna last. So you had to save everything you could. And so I just always thought, you have to save because that's just what you do. That's what responsible people do. You just save. And I didn't really have any idea of, like, well, why do I need to save? Like, what am I saving for? And like Michael said, you kind of just become paranoid, you know? So you do have to realize that life happens and crap happens, and it's very helpful to have that safety net, because you don't want to have to put your emergencies on a credit card, because then you start piling yourself into debt over debt over debt over debt. And if you're in that spot, we're gonna actually do some videos talking about how to get yourself out of that and how to rebuild your credit and give yourself a fresh start. But if you don't want to put yourself in that position, so having a savings account, I'm sure you've heard, having an emergency fund, having that is important. But it doesn't have to be this exorbitant amount that you just add to constantly, because you're just so afraid that life is gonna happen. Like, life is gonna happen, but that's okay. Money comes, money goes. The point of saving is so you just have a little bit of wiggle room, and it takes the stress out of life, you know? So don't stress about saving, because the point of saving is to eliminate stress.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a little counterintuitive, but that's kind of it. So what would you say is a good starter number to put in your savings account if you don't have anything in there?
Sure,
right now?
and it's going to depend based on your situation, but I mean, a really good, just general rule, and this might sound very grandiose, especially if you don't have any savings now, and the whole point isn't to, like, overwhelm you with this number, but a lot of people say if you can have 3 months of expenses saved, then you're in a really good spot. And then ultimately, if you can have a year's worth of expenses saved, then you have more money saved than the vast majority of people. But a 3-month goal is a really good spot to be in, because you know there are things that can happen. You might lose your job, you might suffer an injury or an illness, and you know not be able to work because of that. And you know there's other things you can do to supplement your income, but if you're able to rely on yourself and your savings and not have to rely on other people, that's always really helpful. So I would say if you have no other goals in mind and you're just trying to aim for something, I would say 3 months worth of expenses is probably a good place to aim for. And it might take you years to get to that point. That's okay. You know.
And two, if you have a budget, and if you actually don't have a budget, like make sure to check out our video on the premise of a budget. Because if you know what your budget is and you know what your monthly expenses are, you can tell this is what 3 months of expenses looks like.
Right.
And then also, if you're in a situation where you don't have income coming in, you can look at your budget and say, okay, if I went absolutely bare bones, like if I did not have any fun, how much money do I need? You know, like that's an exercise we actually just did the other day.
Yeah.
Is, okay, if for some reason one of us lost a job and we had to completely go bare bones, not spend anything, not have any fun, what does this look like? And we were able to look at that and be like, okay, that's not as bad as we thought it would be. And then from there we can say this is our necessary expenses, and then we can triple that and make sure we have that in savings.
Yeah.
And eventually the big goal would obviously be a year of expenses, but that's a really big goal.
That's pretty lofty.
That's a pretty lofty goal. So like, don't feel like you have to have a year's worth of savings, you know?
If you can get there, great. And again, you know, the whole point is if you don't have a goal and you have no idea where to even set your goal, then I would say start with 3 months and work towards a year, but don't destroy your life trying to reach that goal, because you might attain it and then never even come close to needing that. And then again, you know, back to what I originally said, no one's ever going to sit on their deathbed and think, you know, oh, I wish I would have saved that dollar here, that dollar there. I mean,
yeah.
The point of savings is to avoid adding unnecessary stress when it comes to debt and you know, things of that nature. But don't do it to the point that you literally exist in life to save money.
Yeah.
That's an unhealthy way of going about doing it.
So one final question for you.
Sure.
Is, do you think if somebody does not currently have any savings, or they have very little, do you think it's more important to go bare bones and throw as much into savings as you can until you hit that goal and then loosen up? Or do you think it's enough to put aside a little bit every single month?
I think that also is going to depend on where you're at. You know, when you talk bare bones, are you talking about, you know, being able to just put aside a ton of money and reach that point quickly? Or if it's really not that much different, if you're already kind of running bare bones in your budget, that's going to affect it. And also, you know, it really just depends on where you're at in your life. You know, if 3 months worth of expenses, if you can save that up pretty quickly and you're okay with the thought of, you know, just going bare bones for, you know, however many months it takes to get there, and that's the kind of person that you are, then, you know, there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. But a lot of people, it's kind of like, you know, we're New Year's resolutions. So many people say, okay, I'm going to lose 50 pounds, or they set a lofty goal for themselves that they have no chance of attaining. And they, you know, go to the gym for like 23 days on average before they finally stop going. And they set this lofty goal for themselves, and then they didn't reach it, and then they go right back to where they are. So if you're going to say, okay, I'm just going to go bare bones and not have any fun, and I'm going to reach my savings goals, you need to be real with yourself. If that's just going to cause you to end up going right back to where you are and not being any better off, then don't do that. You know, if you're the kind of person that can do that and that's how you want to attain it, then I think it's totally fine to do that. But personally for me, I would say it'd be better if you'd at least start somewhere and actually reach your goals than it would be to set this ridiculously lofty goal for yourself that you know you're not going to be able to reach, and then when you fail, you're going to be mad at yourself and then stop doing it anyway. That's what you want to avoid.
Yeah. Cool. So bottom line, savings is great, but don't obsess over savings. Make sure that you have a buffer to eliminate the stress. Okay, the point of savings is to give you some wiggle room when crap hits the fan, because crap is going to hit the fan at some point in life. Yeah. So anyway, I hope that these tips helped. If you guys want more tips and tricks on saving money and hacking life in order to really live your dreams and reach your goals, then please subscribe and post below if you have any questions about money, about anything really finance, life hacking related. So
cool.
We love you guys. We hope you have an amazing day, night, evening, morning, wherever y'all are at.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye-bye.